Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Today we have another lesson, Mega Goal 6. But before we start the new lesson, let's take a quick overview of the previous lesson. We started talking about beauty is only skin deep. This is the title of the unit, and in this unit we are going to talk about the concept of beauty, how people viewed beauty in the past and how it's viewed nowadays. Beauty is only skin deep is an expression that means that beauty is an artificial thing and it doesn't reflect the inner beauty and the personal traits. Yesterday, we had the fifth skill in this unit, which is listening. We started the lesson by talking about how to improve yourself in the listening skill, or how to improve your listening skill, and how to be able to answer the listening questions in the exam or the exercises by following many steps. But before talking about how to answer the questions properly, let's talk firstly about how to improve your listening skills. We said that it's better to expose yourself to the English materials, listen as much as you can to English podcasts, videos, and so on. So to familiarize your ears to the English language, this is the first thing. The second thing, once you get to the exam or to the exercise, read the question, try to understand the question, try to know what is your task, what are you asked to do, what are the questions, or in each question, what are you asked to do. For example, if you are asked to find names, so you try to pay attention to the names in the recording. If you are asked to find dates or numbers, you pay attention to the days and the numbers. And don't panic if you don't understand everything. If you have new words or if you hear new words, don't panic. It's fine to not understand some of the words, but the most important thing is that you understand the main idea of the lecture or the recording. After listening or during listening to the recording, try to take some notes. Take as much notes as you can. Then, after you finish listening to the recording, try to rearrange what you have written and put them in the suitable blanks. In the previous lesson, we listened to a lecture given by a nutritionist, and we said that a nutritionist is a person who is specialized in giving advices about the food and what type of diet that you should follow and so on, about fad diets. And we said that the word fad means trend or something is famous among people. Diet means a system of eating food, a program that you follow or a program of eating that you follow during a period of time. Then complete the chart. We listened to a recording about 3 types of diets, the names of these diets, the idea behind each one, and the problems that come with each one of these diets, and the answers for this chart are as shown here in this picture. If you have any mistakes or if you have some problems with hearing the recording in the previous lesson, feel free now to pause the video right now so you can fill the chart in your book correctly. Today we will start our lesson by talking about the 6th skill in this unit, which is pronunciation. Firstly, what is the pronunciation? It is the way we say a word, the way we utter a word. This is called pronunciation. Why do we study pronunciation? It has more than one benefit. The first one is that to make you understand what you hear. Once you know how to pronounce each word, make you understand how to hear, make you understand what you are hearing, and also make you say the words or the sentences properly. Today we are going to focus on affirmative auxiliary verbs. Firstly, what is the meaning of auxiliary verbs? Auxiliary verbs are the verb be, like am, is, are, was, were, have, has, and had. Those also are auxiliary verbs. Do and does, and did are also auxiliary verbs. The last thing is the modal verbs. The modal verbs like can, could, shall, should, may, might, must, all these are called auxiliary verbs. So we have, had, has, was, were, am, is, are, do, does, did, and the last thing is the modal verbs. Those are called auxiliary verbs. So today we are going to focus on the auxiliary verbs. Affirmative auxiliary verbs are usually not stressed. What is the meaning of stressed? We have stressed word in English. What is the meaning of the stress of a word? Sometimes we force or we strengthen the way we pronounce some of the words. This is called stress, the force or strength we place on part of the words. We have studied before that in each word there are syllables. For example, the word photograph has 3 syllables. Pho, to, graph. 3 syllables. Okay? So, where does the stress take place? It takes place in the first part, on pho. We stress on pho. We place a strength or force on the first syllable and we go easy on the rest of the word. We say photograph. We stress on the first syllable, then we go easy. Some of the words have a stress on the middle. Some of them have a stress at the end of the word. Okay? The word photograph is stressed in the beginning. The word photographer has a stress in the middle. Okay? Today we have affirmative auxiliary verbs. What about the affirmative auxiliary verbs? Or what is the relation between the affirmative auxiliary verbs and the stress? Affirmative auxiliary verbs are usually not stressed in sentences unless they are used for special emphasis. However, negative auxiliary verbs are stressed within sentences. So this is the difference between the affirmative auxiliary verbs and the negative auxiliary verbs. Affirmative auxiliary verbs are usually not stressed, while the negative auxiliary verbs are usually stressed. Now we are going to listen to these 5 sentences and how each auxiliary verb is stressed. Some of them are affirmative and some of them are negative. Why the affirmative auxiliary verbs here are stressed? Because they are used for special emphasis. Now let's go ahead and listen to these sentences. And I want you, after listening to these sentences, I want you to take some time to repeat these sentences. I want you to try to say these sentences and to pronounce the auxiliary verbs properly.
Page 39. 6. Pronunciation. Affirmative auxiliary verbs are usually not stressed in sentences unless they are used for special emphasis. However, negative auxiliary verbs are stressed within sentences. Listen and practice.
1. One recent fad diet that was popular with some famous people was the baby food diet. 2. Baby food has a texture and taste that is unappealing to adults. 3. the small portions aren't enough to keep an adult healthy. 4. It doesn't provide any of the vitamins and nutrients a person needs to survive. 5. This diet isn't guaranteed to result in weight loss.
Okay, now we have just listened to the auxiliary verbs, the negative and the affirmative ones, and how they were stressed. So, to sum up what we have just learned, we said that auxiliary verbs are 4 types: have, has, and had, am, is, are, was, and were, do, does, and did, and the last part is modal verbs like can and could, shall, should, must. Also, we said that the stress is the force or strength we place on a syllable or more than one syllable of a word. And the idea behind having pronunciation lessons is that to help us understand what we hear and to help us say or speak properly. Now let's go to the second part of our lesson today, which is vocabulary building. In each vocabulary building lesson, we have new words that we learn. We have definitions for these words, explanations. Then we match these words with their definitions and explanations. But to be able to understand what do these words mean, we will listen to an essay about beauty where all these words are involved, okay? So all these words will be included in this essay. So we will listen to the essay to be able to understand these words from within the context. So I want you now to pick up your pens, try to identify the words on the left side. So once you find them within the context, you work hard to understand what they mean, so you will be able to answer the questions correctly after listening to the essay. We have 8 words. Number 1, emerge. Number 2, famine. Number 3, ideal. Number 4, instinctive. Number 5, plump. Number 6, proportion. Number 7, standards. And the last word is vary. Now let's go ahead to page 40 and 41 to listen to this essay, and after that we will go back to the vocabulary building to answer the questions together. Now let's go ahead, pick up your pens and listen to the essay.
Pages 40 and 41. 8. Reading.
Changing concepts of beauty in history. Most societies place great value on beauty, whether in art and architecture, fashion and appearance, or design and advertising. Throughout history, elegance and beauty have been the subjects of admiration and fascination. In modern times, we have competitions to find the most beautiful, magazines to tell us about trends in fashion and design, and a billion-dollar cosmetics industry built around looking and feeling beautiful. Yet, despite the importance placed on beauty, one question remains: what is beauty? The ancient Greeks thought that proportion was the key to beauty. The Greeks believed that they had discovered the mathematical formula that represented perfect beauty, which was based on proportions in nature. According to this formula, for example, the ideal face was 2/3 as wide as it was high. Modern research has proven that the basic concept of the Greeks' formula, if not the formula itself, was correct. Beauty does seem to relate to proportion and balance. When related to beauty, these qualities are called symmetry. A perfectly symmetrical face, just like a symmetrical flower, would have a left side that is identical to its right side. Research has shown that the more symmetrical an object or a face is, the more beautiful it is believed to be. You might assume that this response to symmetry is something we learn. However, research has shown that the human appreciation for symmetry is instinctive. It has been found that babies will spend more time staring at pictures of symmetrical objects than they will at photos of asymmetrical objects. Not only is this response instinctive, but it does not appear to vary from one culture to another. In a study conducted at the University of Louisville, Kentucky, participants from 13 different countries were shown pictures of a number of different people. All the participants rated the attractiveness of the people in the same way. They all gave the highest ratings to the people with the most symmetrical faces. While it is true that people across all cultures tend to admire symmetrical features, standards of beauty do vary from one culture to another and from one time period to another. For example, each of the following was considered beautiful at a certain time and place, but would not be considered so today. During the Elizabethan era in England, women thought that high foreheads were elegant, so they plucked inches of their front hair to achieve this look. Also during the Elizabethan era, women brushed egg whites over their faces in order to have a glazed look. In ancient China, the belief that it was elegant for women to have tiny feet led to foot binding. From the 14th to 19th centuries in Europe, women would bind their waists. The binding was sometimes so tight that often women could not breathe properly and sometimes fainted. Another example of how the concept of beauty and fashion changes with time is the way attitudes toward weight have changed through the ages. In Europe, between 1500 and 1900, a plump figure was considered very attractive. Famine was widespread, so plump figures represented health and wealth. During that period, it was common for people to pad themselves in order to look heavier. In the 1900s, fears of food shortages started to diminish, and with it, so did the chubby figure. A new ideal began to emerge. Thin was in. Of course, this trend has continued to today. Because there is an overwhelming amount of fattening food available in most developed countries, it is now considered more attractive and healthy to be thin. Today, fashion and beauty products are usually associated with women. However, this too is the result of a change that took place over time. In fact, the male form was the original standard of beauty in Western culture. The muscular and fit male athlete was the ideal of elegance. For hundreds of years, makeup was associated with both women and men. Men in ancient Greece, Egypt, and Rome wore makeup on their faces and nails. Roman men even had some bizarre beauty practices of their own, such as the habit of bathing in crocodile water to improve their skin. Men's grooming and makeup went in and out of style a number of times through history, before becoming very unfashionable during the industrial age of the early 1800s. However, there are signs that masculine concern for appearance is making a return, as more men are joining gyms and opting to use skincare products than ever before. The standards for beauty and fashion have changed frequently throughout history and will no doubt continue to do so. However, one thing unlikely to ever change is people's fascination with beauty.
Okay, we have just listened to an essay about beauty and how it was viewed throughout the history, and we also listened and try to understand together how all these sentences or what all these words mean. We listened to them within a context, and I hope that you all get the proper meaning for each one of them. But let's try to explain the meaning of each word before we go to the answer part. Number one, the first word, emerge, means coming or appearing from out of nowhere. The second word, famine, is dying from the shortage of food. The third word, ideal, means the perfection or the perfect situation. Number four, instinctive, refers to the instinct, which is something you do not relying on your reason, in your mind, but following your feeling. Number five, the word plump means something stocky or chubby. So it is the opposite of thin or slim. Number six, proportion. Proportion means the suitability or the fitness of more than one thing to each other or two things to each other. Number seven, standards are the measures of the items. The last word, eight, vary, means changes from one time to time or from one place to another. So, what do you think is the proper choice for number one, the word emerge? It is D, appear. Emerge means appear. The second word, famine, is G, serious food shortage. The last one, ideal, is A, idea of perfection. Number four, instinctive, is B, done from feeling rather than reason or learned behavior. The word reason means the mind. Okay. Number six, number five, plump. We said that it means chubby or stocky. The answer is H, which is slightly overweight. And number six, proportion, we said it's the suitability or the fitness of something, and the answer is C, the relationship of one part of something to another part in size and shape. Number seven, standards, is E, something against which other things are measured. And the last one and the last part of our lesson today is number eight, vary. The answer of vary is F, change or form or being different from something else. Thank you all for attending our lesson today, and I wish you enjoy the rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum.